All right, welcome back, guys. FJP in the house. We're going to start looking today at some problems of being a straight white man in the UK. Now, the problem is we've got the Online Safety Act that's just come in, and that limits a lot of what I can say. That is the truth. If I say certain terms on here, what happens is YouTube can have like an unlimited fine or something, so they're more likely to take my video down. So we've got to be careful what we say. We're going to jump straight into it, and you're probably noticing that I'm being a little bit careful with my words. Also, guys, in the middle of this video, I do use Ground News. They are sponsoring, I think, the next 5 videos here, which is really useful for me because YouTube's not going to pay me any money, really. Have a look at a 2-minute clip in the middle of this video. I put it there, 40% off for this deal, and it shows you where your news is coming from and how biased it might mean. I'm not joking. I use this all the time. That's the only reason I let anyone sponsor these videos is because I use the product myself. All right, guys, still getting over a bit of a cold, a bit of a flu, you know what I mean? RAF facing pilot shortage after diversity schemes backfires. We know what diversity, equity, and inclusivity means, doesn't it? It just means no straight white men. So this is pretty horrendous, really. I've done so many videos on this in the past. Let's just jump into this. Previously rejected candidates are being urged to reapply, as well as older candidates, well, or people that have been in the Air Force before, who have any relevant experience in flying related roles. They're suffering out there. They need talent in the service and they're not really getting it. Now, what you will see in this article is the Royal Air Force do turn around and say that they haven't got any problems at the moment filling the pilot and aircrew billets. But what they're not telling you, of course, is that's now. That's not tomorrow. So let's jump straight in. Official document revealed the RAF's need for a higher number of pilots in training. I called this, I think, back in 2011. The Air Force is so short-staffed that candidates who were previously rejected are being urged to reapply, as well as older applicants who have experience in flying-related roles. I've had so many emails recently. I'm backlogged on emails, guys. I do apologize. Saying, do I go into this, Tim? Do I apply to this? Do I apply from this role and go into this? Give it a shot, guys. You know what I'm saying? The RAF now needs a high number of pilots in training, according to a document seen by the Daily Mail. It says here then, woke manipulation of recruiting practices, the same scheme is open to weapons systems officers. Mark Francois, the Armed Forces Minister, told the paper that RAF's availability of combat pilots has been hit by a perfect storm. I don't agree with this, including woke manipulation of recruiting practices, the revival of civilian airline post-COVID, and technical issues with training aircraft, particularly engine reliability on the Hawk T2. And that is factually correct. Everything he says there is correct, but this poor leadership is what he's not saying. Not only in the military, but in the country. We've promoted the wrong people into the wrong jobs. These people have no honour. I've said it before. They'd rather level up their pensions than do the right thing for the people coming in the service beneath them. And that is a fact. And of course, the truth is it wants to put a peacekeeping force, a coalition of the willing, into Ukraine with these young men. Who are they going to put in? What, all the immigrants that have come across? Not at all. They're going to put young white men into that meat grinder that we know so well out on the border of Russia. And I said, didn't I, many videos before, you're not going to defeat Russia if you go to war with the country on its border. Under Air Chief Marshal Sir Mike Wiggum stewardship, the Air Force committed to having 40% women and 20% of personnel from ethnic minorities by 2030. I've said that before. No reason for that. It was just pure ego on his part, unfortunately. And obviously there was that email that we've covered before. We're told to stop choosing useless white male pilots. You can't make this up, guys. You can't make it up. And of course, other branches, engineers, admin, supply, and everything else are also suffering as well. In this video, then, what we're going to briefly cover, we're going to look at that adolescence program. Absolute shocking program that was, wasn't it? We're going to just cover a little bit of African history, and a bit of it kind of leans on white supremacy, which you know, if I say these words, the video gets taken down. I've got to be careful, guys. Really have. I'm not going to say that anymore. I just want you to have a look at it. I'm going to look at the benefits of so much immigration into the UK, and we're going to look at why do Muslim men hang around our schools? This is incredible. And also then we're going to look at the last bit of why Liz Kendall then is wanting to drive so many young people into the British Army. So this is pretty much how Netflix then portrays a 13-year-old knife murderer in the UK. Basically, it was based on another person. This is the person we got in that program, Adolescence, which is Stephen Graham's new Netflix hit. And I haven't seen it. I'm not going to watch it. It's just not my thing. But I've read a lot of reviews on the program. Apparently very well acted, very well scripted. scripted, but this is the face of UK knife crime. If you're in the inner city Westminster London bubble, that's what you're probably going to buy into. But actually, it was based on this chap here. Looks kind of slightly different, doesn't he, really? And the whole program was actually based on this guy, but they just decided in their infinite wisdom to script a white guy in this. White guys can't get on TV at the moment. That's the problem, unless they're playing the face of a mass knife murderer or something. We're living in like 1984, guys, you know what I mean? It's all a bit of a joke, isn't it? So let's talk about the problem with doing this and eradicating the homogenous, cohesive unit of what was a white Christian country called the United Kingdom. This is a very interesting film for about 1 minute 20 where a black African man actually talks about the benefits of whites in Africa.
So you're saying black folks created that name white supremacy?
That's correct, from Africa, because we are just amazed by the things they've done. Well, we describe them always by inventions, that's all. They can command water from far away through tubes into their bedrooms. We can even fetch a bucket of water from the next lake, you will be drowned. They can put electricity. We never had one in Africa. They have airplanes fly over us. It's amazing. Everything they've done is the reason my people say these people are superior, not because of slavery. They came to colonize us and they brought things we have never seen before. They gave a king a mirror and he was dancing and sold his people away. They brought guns we have never seen, boom, and killed somebody right away. You know what they used to do in the Congo?
Right.
They put dynamite in the rocks and then they hide the switch. And then when they point their finger, it go boom. And the Congolese till today, they call the white man kiboom, the sound of the dynamite. And then they go down and they go like this. If they're not superior, why do you see every picture when the white men arrive in Africa, we're bowing to them? We have never seen a gun kill a human being. We have never seen a mirror. We have never seen a radio tune in and somebody speaking from England, the Queen's voice. So for us, all these things, these people must be really superior and close to God. They used to have a joke in Ghana that when God said, let's pray, the white man opened his eyes. The black people were covering his eyes. So the white man saw how God created the world. That's why they are so good at what they do. And I'm telling you, these are folklores from which we grew up. If anyone told you that white people came to Africa to tell us they're superior, it's a lie. They never said that.
Guys, the Ukraine-Russia story is still very prominent in the news, but are we seeing the full story? My wonderful sponsors at Ground News here, now I love these guys and I use them for all of my news. Now what they do is they piece together some amazing articles from publications all across the political spectrum and you get access to every single angle that you could possibly need. Now let's take a look at this article concerning the Ukraine-Russian war. Trump threatens Russia with tariffs and sanctions if it does not agree to end the war. Now, Ground News shows that there is 378 articles here covering this particular topic. Now, the Kiev Independent is a little bit more left-leaning, shall we say, focuses here on the likelihood of the US sanctioning Russia if Moscow refuses peace negotiation. Now, the South China Morning Post, a little bit more centrist, they kind of focus on what will happen consequentially if Russia doesn't really follow through with the peace talks. And lastly, clicking on the right, the India TV News may take it in a completely different way and looking at it as like a threat-based thing and what might happen if they don't actually make that deal. And I love their bias distribution panel here on the right hand side. It says that the majority of publications that have been covering this are right, with only 34% left. And if you look at this factuality table here, it actually tells you how kind of trustworthy each one of those sources actually is. Ground News is my only way of getting unbiased news, guys. So if you want to go and subscribe through ground.news/FJP or click the QR code you can see on the screen now, you'll get 40% off their top tier Vantage plan. That's the one I use to work out what's going on in this Russian-Ukraine conflict. Thank you for Ground News for actually sponsoring me on this particular video. Why is it that only white people are not allowed to be proud of their civilization? This is a Christian white nation. I've said it for many videos on here, and you know I have. And why can't we celebrate that a little bit? Prior to 1950, for example, there were pretty much no other races in the country apart from white people. It's almost like a replacement or eradication intentionally of people that are indigenous to this great country. So you can see that if Netflix and the government really want to address toxic masculinity in Britain, then, well, they need to make a documentary based on facts. You can see here, England and Wales sexual offences per 10,000 people. And you can see at the very top there, it's Afghanistan who's pretty much leading with, I think, 22 times more likely for an Afghanistan person to be involved in sexual offences in the UK than someone that is ethnic British. Then Eritrea, Namibia, Chad, Moldova, Sudan, Burma, Congo, Albania. Well, most of those Albanians are in British prisons at the moment. I think they make up the highest number of people in UK prisons, other than, of course, British people. And don't forget the Muslims in UK Britain. There are 7% Muslims in the UK, yet our prison population is 21% Muslim. So we have to think about that. We've imported criminals, in effect, into this country. And I'm a little bit small here, but I'll try and move myself if I can, or just let you know what's beneath me. It says 13% black beneath me is the population of London, and then 60% white. I'm sorry, I'm blanking it out. I don't know where else to put myself. But that's not actually white English. That's actually white European, pretty much, in London. 60% white, 13% black, and then the other minorities are making up the differences. But you can see that's the population of London from Sky News here. However, murder victims, I think this is knife crime, 44% black and 35% white. So you can see overwhelmingly the black population is more involved in murder here, being not only the perpetrators but also the suspects. We have to just base things on facts. I'll leave this last one with HIV diagnosed in the UK and non-UK born individuals. Here the red line is non-UK born, and HIV on UK is the green line. All right, so the rates of HIV amongst the indigenous British were falling since about 2014, when we opened the borders in about 2019, 2018, we know. And then we had the highest rate of Africans enter in 2021, and you can see the rates are just going up again now. So we are struggling in this country, aren't we? Well, the other thing that really kind of grits me as well, I fully don't understand it, but what is this fascination that Muslim men, some Muslim men, seem to have with our young kids? I'm just going to play you this. This is a teacher outside of London's primary school.
From the primary school. I beg your pardon. This is a primary school. Away. It's a school with windows open. Away. Right now, or I will call the police.
ये देखिए ये लोग लंदन के स्कूल्स वालों को डिस्टर्ब कर रहे हैं, ठीक है?
It's madness. It's madness. What is going on? I mean, it's absolutely incredible. Why are we allowing this to happen? You can see even in Germany, a very left-wing country, the army is struggling to get Gen Z recruits ready for war. They're struggling to get people in. Their whole narrative is falling. It's very sad, this, because it was a great career for me when I was in the military, and I would push any person into it right now. But you can see they want to put the coalition of the willing into Ukraine, and they're desperately trying to get young people in. Now, who makes up those young people in these countries? Well, the truth is, it's the indigenous white man. That's pretty much who they have. They've got no one else they can get in. And they're struggling now. As we saw with the Royal Air Force at the very first beginning of this clip, when you leave out trying to canvass your main demographic, which is young white men, you're going to end up like this, where you have a massive pilot shortage. Now, one of the big problems of this is, of course, as you may know, because I trained them for so long, that when you have that gap, it just manifests itself through the system. It never goes away and it stays there. So many people just don't want to join anymore because they see what the career has become, which is really sad. And they're almost making it out to be some kind of problem that the young people have, as if they haven't ruined this themselves. All these adults in the government should know better. Lord Hammond said young men are totally unprepared to fight a war for Britain. Well, of course they are, because let's be completely honest with you. What is Britain now? What is it? Who is it? Who are we fighting for? Who are we fighting for? A Tory peer, also a former chancellor, said the UK must cut spending on benefits and pensions to help rebuild its defence industry, whilst also preparing citizens mentally for the potential risk of conflict. I mean, and they label this about the threat of Russian aggression. An issue I always have with this Russian aggression. On the one hand, you're telling me that Russia can't even take the whole of Ukraine, and you celebrate that. Look how weak Russia is. Look what we've done to Russia. And on the same hand, you're saying, like I said in the last video, that Russia, we're in danger in the UK of Russia coming over here and taking over our land. It's absolute nonsense, and I've said it for so many videos now. We have people like Richard Kemp, don't read this, man. Ukraine has long just humiliated Putin, long may it last, he said. And then basically the Kursk offensive may have proved to be Ukraine's most costly mistake. They're just grifters. And as you can see, he's just going to write what's there at the moment. It makes no sense. It contradicts each other. What's that? Total Russian collapse surprisingly close. Putin is terrified of Ukraine's counteroffensive. Ukraine is losing, but the UK must stand by it. Russia, absolute war mongers. They want your young children to go and die for them to prop up their defence shares. I'm not even joking. That's exactly what it is. I'm going to leave it there, guys. Okay, Liz Kendall says young people will be pushed to join the army to cut youth unemployment. Look, we know the whole thing's a sham. I appreciate you watching. Just have a good conversation with your child about joining the military, because it does seem to me that this government is advocating, pushing them into something that they're never going to come back from. Going to put them in Ukraine, you know it. And what's Putin said about NATO in Ukraine? He said he's never going to accept that. So that means they're going to be targeted. It's going to be a friendly fire incident. We didn't mean to kill. Then they're going to fire back. They're going to fire back before you know it. Bang! Like in Vietnam, like in these other wars, we're now a peacekeeping force. Now we're in an active conflict. So we can break up Russia. We can take all the mineral wealth, of course. We know how it works, guys. It's been done many, many times before. It's on Russia. It's on America's list somewhere, isn't it? I'm sure. Look, guys, I appreciate it. I'm sorry I'm not well at the moment, but I do appreciate you watching this video.